4 years ago, we got a new mayor, Gregor Robertson, and he and Andrea Reimer, a councillor, said we are going to be the greenest city in the world by 2020. And they had made a call to citizens to come up with ideas. And it was a crowdsourced online platform, and Duane and I were having coffee together one day, and we said, we should put in an idea. How do we get students inside City Hall helping with this greenest city? We want to be on the Greenest City Action team.
An interesting part of the Greenest City Action Plan was this idea of campus-city collaborations. And like all of the 10 goals, they were really ambitious, but no one really knew how they were going to be accomplished. So our pitch for CityStudio was housed within this larger ambition for a campus-city collaboration. And ours was a beta project that could get traction immediately. Since 2011, we've put 162 projects on the ground. We've involved 113 faculty, 60 city staff, and over 3,000 students.
Well, we run two kinds of courses. One of them is at CityStudio headquarters, and that's the really interdisciplinary, intensive, immersive, cohort-based course. And that is what students say is the best learning experience of their career. They have a hard time going back to regular classes after that kind of learning experience. And it's really where you get to dive in, and it's their 9 to 5 days a week at the studio. We also run a partner course network, and those courses are where faculty take the regular course, whether it's engineering, women's studies, geography, any kind of course, and we tailor it to CityStudio, and we have a coordinator who does that. And those students, for the first time get sort of a taste of what working for a real client is like, working on issues that matter in their city, and also to create new solutions that maybe the city hasn't thought about.
Our role is to provide deep mentorship, guided mastery towards building relationships with staff, but also to understanding the city issues as being complex and having their own timelines.
The process is design and dialogue. So they're having these deep conversations and dialogue. They have to imagine that they're going to be out in community, so they have to plan community conversations. So a lot of the work around dialogue is like, how do you go into a community? How do you plan that first meeting? What does that feel like? What's the poster look like? How do you engage and actually hear people and then feed that information back? They have to work directly with a city staff in that case as well. So that's the community engagement, relationship building kind of skills that we're working on. And then design is also thinking about prototyping. So how quickly can you come up with an idea and test it, and then learn from that process and redesign and prototype.
Staff now say their visits to the studio are the best 2 hours in their day. They come down to the studio, the students host them, the students host dialogues with the guests, and the staff are on neutral territory. So they're staff, but they're also citizens. And they get to participate in new problem solving with young people who are absolutely passionate about doing something in their city and helping build it. The idea of the projects fundamentally is that the problems are housed within key city programs, the Healthy City Strategy or the Engaged City Task Force or the Greenest City Strategy. And within that, there are specific targets and goals. One of the goals is increasing food assets by 50% by 2020 and healthy food for all. And working within that large idea, the students embark with city staff a co-creation process where they try to match haves with needs. What do we have in the city and what do we need in the city? And this requires them to think like sophisticated problem solvers, undertaking research all over the city, moving around the city, visiting places they've never been before. They found that there was a community center, Britannia Community Center, that ran an after-school program for young people where they probably spent about $100 a week on food for these young people to eat after school. And at the same time, the students found that near the community center, on the corridor, Commercial Drive, there were multiple organic produce vendors. So the project was meeting and reaching out to all of the produce vendors, developing a system by which what was considered the less marketable fruit could be saved and collected, and then moved to the community center by the kids themselves. So the kids put out bins, they labeled them, asked all the store managers to put the fruit and produce in, and at the end of the day, they would come and collect it and bring it back to the community center. And then that food became the vehicle for learning and cooking classes and shared meals, and the idea that young people could actually take control and investigate their own experience into what they needed and what they wanted their city to be like. So that's the kind of the project itself. It scales nicely because, as we know, on major corridors, there's almost always a school or a community center, and there's almost always produce vendors. So you can imagine this one experiment scaling across the city. We think every city would be better with a CityStudio because the city, the future of the world is in cities. We know this is happening. Cities will have to spend trillions and trillions of dollars responding to the urgencies of climate change and energy and waste and food, infrastructure, aging population, and everyone has to be at the table to do this work. And normally we hold back our undergrads for 4 years in dark rooms and ask them to wait until they've graduated before they can help working on these problems. So we're trying to turn that around or turn that upside down. We imagine that city halls might become the classroom of the future in the sense that they're a teaching hospital model. That is, the learning will happen inside City Hall as cities are being built by people inside City Hall.